Talking today. We're also going to be talking to many people on Facebook, hopefully Twitter, everywhere. Because one of the biggest things that I always like to do is to get involved with people, the future. That's you. I want to hear your ideas. I want to hear people tell me why I'm wrong. I want to hear people tell me why am I right. I want to have a conversation. No one is 100% right. That's always true. There is no idea that is perfect. Almost every great thing that has happened because of an accident, usually because someone's trying to do something, talk to someone else, and a mistake happened, and suddenly they go, oh my God, this is great. We have something now. And that's one of the best things about universities. That's why I love coming to speak to universities. Because together, I'm going to make a mistake, you're going to make a mistake, we're going to say, wait a minute, that isn't quite right, but wait a minute. That train of thought, that logic, that idea sparked something. Whether it's in you directly or someone else who's watching this, and then suddenly we're going to have a conversation about that. We're going to grow as a society, a community, a college, and we're going to make an improvement. That's my ultimate goal. Whether it's going to be one person, everyone, the university, the state, I don't care, but that's why we have these conversations. To hopefully get that spark that moves us all forward. So in that process, we're going to talk about a few things tonight. And I'm very open to conversations. This isn't a, I'm speaking to you, you have no voice. This is an interactive. We're going to talk back and forth with each other. And then later on, I'm going to check out what Facebook had to say, and Twitter and YouTube, and I'm going to put it out into a couple other mediums, and hopefully we're going to hear some more. And then we're going to do a follow-up on this, because I do a podcast as well. And we're going to go over some of those thoughts. And again, we're going to try and motivate people. We're going to try and get a spark out there and move everything forward. So I'm going to talk about a couple of things, because what's the most important thing I see right now in universities, nationally, statewide, local community, is that there are people who are trying to say, you should have no spark. That you should have no individuality. That you should not be able to make those mistakes. We're going to protect you, they say. We're going to make sure it's all safe for you. We're going to take away the individuality because you are not an individual, you are a group. You are just another face, and you're interchangeable. And as long as everyone does what we say, you're going to be okay. I think that's the worst thing you could possibly do to a mind. I think that is the worst thing you can do to an individual. No growth comes from that. Whether it's because you made a mistake or you got it all right, nothing moves forward because you haven't done anything to move forward. You've stayed in one spot. And someone else tells you what that spot means. This is your place. Does that sound fun to anyone? Does that make anyone motivated for the future? That today, someone has decided your future for the next 50 years of your life, and you will do nothing else but that. I think that would be hell. That's a prison sentence. That's not life. But yet, we're hearing that, and you're going to say to me, or hopefully, I hope someone says to me, how's that possible? Where do you get that from? Why would I think that? Is it because I'm old? And I'm a little bit older than you guys. Is it because I just don't understand? No, it's because I'm listening. But I'm critically listening. And this is one of the most important things you can possibly do, and I hope you're going to do that to me tonight. I'm critically listening to what's being said out there. And what's being said is that you don't matter. The policy matters. The goal matters. The overall message matters. What's a message without people to hear it? What's a policy without people to have an effect? So I'm going to be talking a lot about policy. I'm going to talk about organizations. I'm going to talk about progressives. I'm going to talk about Democrats. I'm going to talk about socialists. I'm going to talk about the policies they're putting out there and how those policies are going to affect each and every one of you, whether you agree or not, and how that's going to destroy your life based on the experience I've seen around the world in my 50 years of life. Because I can tell you this, it's happening. It's happening right now, and you don't, most likely, you don't notice. Because it's not as simple as I just step to the left. Oh, there it is, I see it now. Gotta do a little work, gotta do a little homework. Gotta pay attention. So I'm a little gregarious, as you may have noticed. I go the long way around because I'm thinking. I'm thinking about what I'm saying, and it takes a little while. Because anyone who's going to give you something in 30 seconds is lying to you. Anyone who's going to give you a headline doesn't know what they're talking about. If they can't do the long-form conversation, they don't understand the conversation. The whole point of media today is to make you say yes and do what you're being told and to act because of emotion, not because of logic or reason or understanding. And to get a wave of those emotions going so that you will not stand out against that wave and say, I disagree. Because if anyone disagrees, that momentum stops and then they lose power. How does this all come together? Because we're talking about the Second Amendment, we're talking about vaping, we're going to be talking about healthcare, probably even Andrew Yang. Wow, that's a spectrum, huh? How do all those things come together? How does that make sense?
Andrew Yang doesn't.
Huh?
Andrew Yang doesn't.
Andrew Yang is out of his mind. He loves to say what should be a racist statement. I'm an Asian, so I know math. Or I'm an Asian, I know mathematicians, doctors. You know, if I said that, they'd be screaming at me right now, going, oh my God, he's such a racist. Why does Andrew Yang get to say that? And why is it bad for me to criticize him for saying that? Control. Because you're not supposed to think about what he said. You're supposed to accept it because he said it, so it's okay. It must be okay because he said it, and he's one of the leadership. Always question. Why is it okay for me to say that? Why isn't it okay to question? But let me step back. Gun control. We're going to start with gun control. And in particular, the red flag laws. I have been studying the red flag laws for about 2 years now. I would say that I'm in probably the top 10% of the nation about knowing about red flag laws. I've done an 8,000 word report with 150 sources on the red flag laws. I've spoken to senators, state assembly members, pretty much every member of government that I could reach in New York State about this. Members of Congress, Larry Sharp, Libertarian Party, people running for offices, every candidate I could. I've gotten public and non-public answers, and I've also researched it with about half a dozen lawyers. And I continue to speak with organizations across the country about this. You should be terrified of red flag legislation. And I am awaiting, at any moment, for a knock on my door between 5 and 8 a.m. from the police to break into, well, they're going to have a warrant, to come into my home and go through my property because someone has accused me of being a danger. And I will not be notified beforehand. That sounds scary, doesn't it? Does anyone want to trade places with me? No, I didn't think so. Let me start off. Or let me continue. Does anyone know what the red flag legislation is? So, 2, 3 people, a couple of people going back and forth. Okay. So, recap real quick. The red flag laws say that someone has decided that you are a danger to either yourself or the public. That person goes to a court. The judge decides whether or not you are a danger. The judge signs a warrant. The police come to your house. They normally do that between 5 and 8 a.m. And they take your property. You then spend the next year trying to get your property back, proving yourself innocent of the accusation. Key point here. Does anyone know what I didn't just mention?
Due process.
Due process is part of it, but there's a bigger thing. Before due process. No, I'm not going to tell you, John. I know you know. He's worked with me.
Well, innocent until proven guilty.
Innocent until proven guilty. You know what the key thing is? Oh, one more, go ahead.
There's no probable cause.
No crime. No accusation of a crime. No consideration of any crime ever being committed. New York State and 16 other states have railroaded the public into an idea. You're going to be safe because the government is going to come and protect you. As long as you give up your right to due process and are willing to be accused and punished without ever having committed a crime. Because that'll make you safe. How can we not be terrified by that? There are more rights in the Soviet Union than that. They at least made up a crime before they came and took you away. They're not even bothering with that. So yeah, you don't even get, and then we go to due process, and by legal structures, and anyone who's in pre-law knows, there are 15 requirements to properly give someone due process. None of those requirements happen. Because no crime has been committed. And so many of the proponents of this say, well, that's okay. Now, part of this process is very important to understand, because this is affecting everyone who's watching this. A part-time, very clear, a temporary part-time badminton coach at any school in New York State can look at you, your brothers, your sisters, your kids, anyone, and say, oh, you look tired. You have scratches, because you were playing, bumped your knee. You're upset. I think that's because there are guns in your house. I'm going to a judge now. I'm going to file that it's a dangerous household. And the judge will say very clearly, how can you prove that? According to the law in New York State, I saw them buy a hammer, a nail, a steak knife, a baseball bat, a baseball. Any and all dangerous implements. I'll say it again, dangerous implements. According to New York law, this is an undefined term, which is defined de facto by any implement that can or has been used to harm or kill another human being. Can you think of anything that has not been used to harm or kill another human being in the history of mankind? Okay, so literally if you bought anything in the last 6 months, according to this law, that is a justification for the red flag event. You still have not been told about this. You cannot defend yourself. You cannot go out and explain that your kids or yourself or your family were tired, that you were playing football and you got a scratch, because you missed breakfast because you were running late because your car had a flat tire. You don't get to explain anything. You don't get to defend anything. You're just punished. Now, you're going to say, well, the judge is going to be on your side. Actually, there is no guarantee anyone in that room making that decision is on your side. Because it's not required. There is no due process. The judge, let's think about this for a second. The judge is going to get elected. They are looking at their record. They also potentially are liable to a lawsuit, as is the school. And they're going to say to themselves, if we don't report this, if we don't move this forward, and it happens, God forbid, they're gonna get sued. They're gonna get sued for millions. Do you think they're gonna say, oh, not this time? Or do you think they're gonna say, well, just in case, let me pass this on down the line? Because the reality is they're gonna pass it right down the line. Do you know how I know that? Florida, 2018, in February, passed the red flag legislation. By June of 2018, 6 months later, 5 months later, they had already had over 500 cases of the red flag legislation active. Doesn't take long. Connecticut, first state to have red flag legislation, does about 100 red flag actions a month. We're talking about thousands of people who are being affected by this in states all across the nation. And I can tell you, there is no record that I could find over the last 18 months where someone was denied a red flag action. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but there's no record. So as far as I know, this is the only law that gets 100% compliance. That you will have the police show up at your door with a warrant to take away your property without you ever having broken the law. Now they're going to go from there. Now, you may say, well, that's pretty bad, Mike. No, it doesn't stop there. There's another part no one wanted to tell you. And I know this is true, not only because of the lawyers that I spoke to, but because of the assembly members who I spoke to about this on the record and have already published that have said I am correct on this next part. The lawmakers that made this have already told me it's true. New York State, and almost every state, has a CPS, Child Protective Services, some version of that. In the mandate, state mandate of CPS, if a home is too dangerous, that child must be removed from that home. The state must take control. What is more dangerous than the government coming in and saying, we're going to remove your Second Amendment rights, we're taking your property because of the extreme reason you are a danger? That child must go. And the police must tell CPS that they are coming to your home. So expressly for the fact that they can then take your kids. So you are not spending a year just to get your property back. You're spending a year to get your kids back. You know how much all this costs? Lawyers tell me somewhere between $11,000 to $20,000. Let me ask you, how many people can afford even $10,000? How many people can afford the time to go to the courts? How many people can deal with the reports in the newspaper destroying their careers and their reputations? How's this going to affect your kids in schools, even if you win? Okay. So that's a pretty bleak scenario when you really think about it. And here's how this affects each of you. At any point since the law has been passed, August 24th, when it went into effect, you may right now be subject to a red flag legislation. Or anyone who doesn't like you may subject you to a red flag legislation. If they have ever lived in your home, they're a member of your family, if they are a teacher, essentially anybody who works in the school except a janitor could, in this university, in a high school, in an elementary school, in any institute of education can do this, as well as police and certain other selected individuals. Oh yes, even in some cases, boyfriends, girlfriends, significant others. So it's pretty wide open. And I can imagine it's going to destroy your lives. This was all done because some genius said, government's going to protect it. Let me ask you something. How many criminals do you know this is going to affect? Can you guess how many criminals this affects? There's no reason to think it affects any of them. How many criminals go out and legally register their firearms? Roughly, best numbers I can find, between 3 to 5%. That's about it. Almost everything else is illegal. You know how many mass shootings this would affect? Over 80% of all mass shootings are done by people with illegal firearms. They either illegally obtained them or illegally are using them. Legal owners of firearms are one of the lowest groups. Do you actually know, does anyone know, what is the chance of being shot? Literally 99.999% of gun owners are legal law-abiding citizens. There is a 0.00004% chance of being shot and killed in America. That's it. That's if you're in a gang. If you're out of a gang, 0.00008% chance of being killed by a firearm. Don't believe me? Do the math. 160 million Americans own firearms, 350 million firearms in the United States. Taking out suicides, oh, I should mention, the 0.004, that's gangs and if you're going to commit suicide. Because 2/3 of all murders with a firearm, suicide. So if you're not going to kill yourself, down. If you're not in a gang, which is on average about 8,000 people per year, your numbers just gotten even better. I'm going to speed it up.
No, I have a question.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure people were wondering, where do you get your sources from?
Oh, my sources on this?
Yes, I would love to know.
CDC, the FBI, Unified Crime Statistics of the United States every year. There is the GIVE report from New York State on the 17 largest metropolitan cities, which includes Binghamton, reported twice a year. I go to each state and get their similar reports, and newspapers such as Chicago, the number of incidents that happened, how many people have been killed so far, 291 people. Baltimore has the same, Detroit has the same. So every one of the sources that I use for this is a credible, nationally recognized source. You can look up these numbers yourself. Do the math. You're not in danger. But a headline says you are. And a politician who wants power over you says you are. And they're using that same exact process I just described to you on every aspect of your life. Anyone vape? Okay. Do you know how many people vape?
A lot.
In the United States?
20 million.
Not a bad guess. Do you know how long vaping has existed?
5 years.
Huh?
Maybe a little over 5 years.
It is over 5 years. Right.
2003.
Yeah, and I know why you know that, because I told you.
Yeah.
Yes, but for those who don't know, 2003, vaping first became a reality. It's been 16 years that it's been there. 10.8 million people vape in the United States at this time. The overwhelming majority of them are people who are 30 years or older. The primary, roughly 60% of all users of vapes are trying to quit smoking. Do you know how many deaths are attributed to vaping?
Less than 100.
Huh?
Less than 100.
No, that's this year, on an annual basis. Almost none, except for this year. Do you know what? Yeah.
Well, the only instances of the things blowing up, right?
Huh?
There have been a few manufacturer defects that have caused them to blow up.
There have been, but that's a defect, not a cause of the product itself.
Yeah.
Yes, but you're correct. So right now we're starting to see. Does anyone know what the number is right now?
I believe 8 dead.
9.
No.
9 are suspected to be dead. Do you know how many people are affected right now? According to the CDC, go ahead.
I was gonna say like about 500.
Very close, and almost dead on. According to the CDC last report, 530 people. This number is being expanded on by a lot of social media. I've seen numbers out there saying it's 1,000 people. It is rampant. It is widespread. It is the biggest crisis in America. How many people died because of car crashes? 50,000? 30,000? How many people in America smoke? 40 million? 50 million? 10 million people use a vape. You know that. 10.8 million people. Let's round it down. 10 million people. Let's round the number up. 1,000 people are affected. Drunk driving? Driving while texting? Driving while high. Each and every one of those, and I can go down a list all the way down, are serious issues that have 10 times as many people being affected across the United States. But vaping is the problem. By the way, you can still smoke. And smoking is claimed to be the most dangerous thing you could possibly do. It's going to kill you. But you can smoke your heart's delight. Can't vape. And I believe it was Michigan that just came out, and as of today, no vaping can be done in the state. They've eliminated the product. You cannot buy vaping, whether it's flavored or not. New York State, just a couple days ago, took away the right to have flavored vaping. And they're about to keep it going and go. There is no vaping whatsoever. Here's the thing that's really interesting about that. Nobody knows why those people have been affected. No one knows if it is even related to vaping. We suspect, and according to the CDC, they suspect that there has been THC or cannabis oil or something else was added to the liquids. Yes?
They were saying that there was no, when I was reading about it, about the deaths, they were saying that in all the vapes that they were smoking, that there was no, I think like exact matching ingredients in each of them. There was nothing.
Mm-hmm. Well, at the moment, there is no consensus other than they have seen many, CDC won't say how many, but a large number of the people have used some kind of vaping device, which also included THC and cannabis. But it's not against all 530 people. Nothing seems to be consistent. They have, in other words, they have no idea. But the state is going to protect you by taking away your right to have property, taking your right to have a choice. Yes?
I was just reading about the Michigan ban on Reason.com, and they had like store owners in Michigan that drove like hundreds of miles to like come out against it and said that these flavored vapes are helping so many adults quit smoking, and like these are the only things that have gotten people off of cigarettes. And it's going to destroy their business, destroy their jobs, and push people back to cigarettes.
Yes, that's correct. Because 9 people died for an unknown reason, which may or may not have anything to do with this. And by the way, the majority of people who died were not kids. They were 30 years old or older, usually having been smokers before. Some of them had heart or lung conditions. Yeah, go ahead.
Do you believe that these bans were influenced somehow by the tobacco companies?
Maybe, but it's not in the tobacco. Tobacco has been moving towards this, and they've been working on trying to get a vaping product of their own for the actually since 1963. So maybe they did, maybe they didn't. The bigger thing is, I don't know. Because the biggest problem isn't tobacco. It isn't the company. It isn't even the choice that's being denied you. There is a process that's happened here. Think about what I started off with, the red flag law. What's the same thing about vaping? Yeah.
The government's going to protect you.
The government's going to protect you. How do they protect you?
Taking away your rights.
No due process. No crime. We're going to take care of you. You don't get a right. You don't have freedom. I get to take your property, I get to take your life and your rights, and you get nothing. Except what someone says you should do. That's a pattern. And if you accept it in one place, they take it to the next and keep moving it down the line. And you lose more and more freedoms. There is no difference. People can tell me, oh, I don't like the Second Amendment. Fantastic, don't buy a gun. I don't like smoking. Don't smoke. That's a big difference than, I'm going to punish you. I'm going to deny you. I'm going to ostracize you. How long before, and you've already started saying it, oh, you're vaping. Get out of here. You could kill me. Fear-mongering. No different than what happened in the AIDS epidemic in the 80s. Oh my God. I don't know. You could be contagious. Fear-mongering, ostracizing. Reinforcing that you must listen and do what we say. On something they have no idea why it's happening. How do you know you're protecting anyone if you don't know what you're protecting them from? I mean, that's a good question, don't you think? How can you protect someone by denying them the choice and the opportunity to investigate this, to go through this for themselves and make their own personal choice? And will some people make the wrong choice? Absolutely. Guess what? Freedom is a double-edged sword. Someone will always make the wrong choice. That doesn't mean you shouldn't have freedom. That doesn't mean you give up your freedom for someone else to tell you what is the right choice for you, because they like it. And we see the same thing happening in healthcare. Think about it. Universal or single-payer healthcare. What's the same thing that's happening with that? That's happening with vaping. That's happening with the red flag laws. You have no choice. Bernie Sanders, I got to give it to him. It was, not Elizabeth Warren, Klobuchar, Amy Klobuchar, Senator Amy Klobuchar, in the last debate in September, pointed out real clear, she read Bernie Sanders' bill. It was page, I believe, 92. No, it was page 8 at the bottom of the page. He's going to get rid of 149 million health plans as part of universal health care. He's going to take away the choice of 149 million Americans, including each and every one of you. Because he has an answer, and he's going to protect it. And that is the exact same policy decision that's being made by every single proponent of single-payer health care. The government's going to take care of you because they're going to make the choice for you.